Well, here I am, folks, on another walking video. I think the weather's just about holding, so I thought I'd go for a little trip round the block and put some more of my thoughts on camera. Well, I'm getting a bit alarmed, to be honest with you, at the comments and the attitudes I'm seeing with regard to the future direction of this country. Now, I did a poll within the last couple of days regarding the situation with Lee Anderson and the Reform Party. You know, do you support that defection to the Reform Party? And an overwhelming majority of you, out of the few thousand people that voted, said, well, yes, I do. And that party seems to be the answer to everybody's prayers. Everybody's saying, oh, we'll vote Reform, we'll vote Reform, definitely. Well, as I've said, the whole thing does need reform, doesn't it? Root and stem. I mean, just yesterday there was Prime Minister's questions. They were talking about Diane Abbott and how people shouldn't be nasty to Diane Abbott. Well, in my opinion, she puts her foot in her own mouth multiple occasions, and the easy go-to when she's criticised is the R word. It's something that comes out repeatedly, and when they end up name calling and tossing blame around, what good is that for the country? I don't think it is it? So to that end, and when you look at videos like yesterday when I said about this proposal to pay failed asylum seekers $3,000 a pop to piss off to Rwanda, the whole thing's a little bit of a joke, isn't it? So yes, we need a change. We need urgent reform. Now, when you look at that party, when you look at reform, yes, it could be magic, couldn't it? It could be reform. It could be the answer to everybody's prayers, and a lot of people are putting their hopes, dreams, and aspirations into the idea of reform. But the weak link that I keep seeing publicly criticised again and again and again is Richard Tice. There's a few things that have alarmed me about him. You know, the core voters who are liable to go with that party are former Conservatives, people that feel let down by the system, such as myself. I've not believed in any of them for ever such a long time. And people who are politically homeless, people who want somewhere. And if you look at Richard Tice, this is all well advertised, I'm not making any of this up, you can go and look at it. He went on that aid convoy to Ukraine with, thousands of pounds of medical provision and the trucks to go with them. He supported certain interventions over that period of time, and there's certain people, Tommy, he wouldn't really entertain the idea of speaking to at all. So those, there's various examples of things that he's said and done, which again are well documented, you can go and find them yourself, that stink of establishment. And that's enough to make alarm bells ring in some people's heads, isn't it? The main thing that rings an alarm bell in my head is when you get MPs from other parties, Simon Danchuk, Lee Anderson even, and various others who have been approached or have come across. What you will find is a party named Reform, which will end up with a large portion of establishment within their ranks. And it's almost like, comes across as a safety valve for the establishment that we're so disenchanted with. Now, granted, you need community leaders, you need people in business, you need people from local communities in the House, and you need people that have a clue about what goes on in their local communities and can represent them. That was the whole idea of parliamentary representation in the end, wasn't it? And, you know, maybe it isn't a bad idea to have some former MPs or some political presence in there who knows how the system works. But at the end of the day, we need it all reformed root and stem. You take my pal Noel Wilcox, for example, perfect example, local businessman, very passionate about the causes that he wants to represent, and he's putting a lot of time, energy and his own personal self into these causes because they really matter. I mean, some of the messages you hear, or you should hear some of the messages that have gone back and forth between me and him. You can hear the frustration. Hopefully I can bring you some updates on that in the very near future. But what about the people that are disenfranchised, the people that don't give a shit anymore? I saw a video yesterday where somebody is politically homeless and said, you know what, I'm not going to bother voting. You look at Wellingborough, you look at, you know, George Galloway's constituency, 60% of the electorate in both those places stayed at home, didn't bother coming out to vote. So you have an MP returned in these constituencies off the back of a small percentage of the electorate. How's that fair and democratic? What are those 60%? You know, Wellingborough, is that 60% pissed off Tories? So they're not going to bother anymore because they feel let down? What about the 60% in George Galloway's neck of the woods? Are they pissed off Labour? They're not going to come out anymore because they feel let down? Perhaps the answer is some kind of reform. So surely they should come out, go in that ballot box and either vote for that, or if they see nothing at all on that ballot paper whatsoever, do not consent. 4 very powerful words: I do not consent. And it sends a very clear message. If you don't do anything at all, what you're doing, you're tacitly agreeing to them carrying on as they were before. All I've got to say are the words David Cameron and Nick Clegg. And you saw what a 14 years of disaster that's actually created for all of us. Not great, huh? Anyway, I'm done yakking about that. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And I look forward to seeing you again soon. And here's another video for you. Toodaloo.